have a tremendous panel right here. I'd like to bring up first and foremost our moderator and former chairperson of the LA Sports Council a few years ago, Karen Brodkin from WME, co-president. Yes. Next up is Lindsay Amstutz, president of Playfly Media. Lindsay's had a great career in sports media, and we're glad that she's here. Thank you, Lindsay. Next up, from the Los Angeles Chargers, Megan Bell, Senior Vice President of Consumer Revenue and Insights. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Megan. And next up, Stacy Johns, COO and CFO for LAFC. And for a little while, she was also the CMO, so she can do it all. And lastly, founder and co-founder and president of Angel City Football Club, Julie Uhrman.
Is this on? Yeah, you guys can hear me. Okay, Matt, thank you so much. And I thought I had to do the intro, so you just saved me a bunch of time. Although I will say this is a very illustrious panel. I know all of these women. This one is from the Fox Sports coaching tree. We have NFL, alum, and we have a founder. And I want to say this is the first panel I have ever sat on in my career where there are all women on the stage, and it's not about what is it like being a woman working in sports. So we're not going to talk about the challenges of being a woman in sports. That's yesterday's news. We're going to talk about innovation, and these four women are all running businesses that include arenas and stadiums and media and teams, and so they all have sort of a unique, I think, perspective on what's new and innovative in their business, what's working, what they see out there in the marketplace that they haven't tried yet that they might. Dodgers are not doing well, so we're just gonna keep this moving, and we don't need to look at our phones. Okay, so we'll just I'll pose the question to each of you, the obvious question. So what is a new innovative idea? Innovation doesn't have to be tech, doesn't have to be data. I think anything can be innovative. What's new that you've tried in your business? How is it working? Or if it's not? Lindsay, we'll go down the line.
Thank you, Karen. At Playfly, we are currently living the panel that you heard earlier, from Rob and Dan and John in terms of the innovation that's happening with media. So the group that I focus on at Playfly Media bundles all of the amazing live local content and delivers it to fans. And our promise to the brands that partner with us is that we're gonna get them to those rooting fans wherever they're watching, whether they're watching on DirecTV, or whether they're watching on a league-owned platform, or maybe it's a traditional RSN, or maybe it's a streaming-only platform. And so living through that innovation, especially, as Karen mentioned, I had been at the Fox Sports RSNs for a while, however many years it was, and certainly enjoyed that run, and now to be forced in a great way of figuring out how we connect those brands to fans wherever they go. And I'm sure each of you have had your own experience with wanting to watch a game, trying to find it, wherever it may have been delivered to you. That challenge right now has been really fun to try to keep up with it and try to make it work within our model. So wherever those games are going, we've been going with them. So to live that innovation has been really fun, and ultimately, fun's the word I'm sticking with.
Fun with quotes around
Fun
it.
with quotes, but ultimately, I think, from a consumer perspective, it's great to see that innovation taking place, and we're not through it yet, for sure. But at the end of the day, there's going to be more opportunities to watch the teams that you love. So that's what we're doing on a daily basis.
Thanks, Lindsay. Megan.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really just how much we can know about a fan. I think really looking at who they are, what they like, not talking about just our team sport, but even thinking about myself. You don't want to waste your time getting information or searching for information. You want it all right there at the right time. And so I think for me, what we think about all day, every day, is understanding who that person is, what they like, what makes them tick, Anything from how much will they spend on a ticket to who's their favorite player to what other sports teams are they interested in LA, and how can we, bring that fandom to us. And so I think there's just so much out there right now. And it can be overwhelming, but how can you kind of take it down to a level where you can make it actionable and you can actually start to see some real movement there? And I think there's so much information once you get into the AI of it and showing the right person at the right time and, having to do all of that. Really just making it worth our while. We look at things two ways. Is it going to bring us more fans, or is it going to bring us more revenue? And hopefully by combining that stuff, you'll be able to do both at the same time.
I'm glad you said fans before revenue. That's good. Stacy.
Sure. I mean, I'm going to say this, even though I'm sitting in this brand new, amazing building, BMO Stadium, which is also my purview, which if you haven't been there, you should come. We do so much more than just soccer, and I think they were really smart when they built the stadium several years ago, made sure they built it for concerts. We had no idea if that was going to work for us, being a grass stadium. We are now a grass stadium 7 years into the experiment, hosting 25 concerts a year, doing more business than we ever expected to do. And I think that's where every year we're innovating, and it's all about grass. I've learned more about grass technology in my life than I ever expected. Just talked to some nice people back here about some technology they use in France for the Olympics that I'm kind of interested in. But we can flip our building in 48 hours. It used to be 72 hours from concert to soccer. Julie doesn't always like it because the field sometimes isn't great, which again is why we're always working on the technology piece. But I think the forward thinking they had there and thinking that we could do things more than just be a soccer team on a grass field, and we could, use our pitch and do it differently, was the only way we're kind of standing where we are today.
Julie.
Well, I just have to say, I've never had a mic with a cord. It makes me want to stand up and sing. So I'm like having issues up here because I'm not thinking about the panel. I'm like, I should be, anyway.
Do you want to switch? I'll give you mine.
I digress. So Angel City's innovation is a little bit differently, or we've thought about it differently from the beginning. When we sought out to build Angel City, we were going to be the 12th professional sports team in Los Angeles, not counting USC and UCLA. We were going to be a women's professional sports team playing a sport where there were 2 men's professional teams. And the entire narrative around women's sports in 2019 and every single year prior was nobody watches women's sports, nobody cares, nobody invests, nobody will come. So given that, as we thought about building Angel City, it was much bigger than just building a team in a city. It was about driving towards equity and using sport and entertainment as a means with which to drive real equity, whether that's pay equity, visibility equity, and gender equity. And so to do that, we knew we had to be more than just our record, thank God, 3 years in. We had to be meaningful to our community in a very significant way. So from day one, we talked about wanting to be an organization where mission and capital could coexist, where we can make a positive impact in the community while we win championships and celebrate the incredible women athletes and create an experience that they are deserving of. And so in order to have a positive impact in the community, we wanted to make sure it wasn't in name alone. We talked a lot about how we want to walk the talk. And so we made the decision that every decision that we make will have an impact plus drive towards profitability, therefore changing the narrative around women's sports, and we would never sacrifice one for the other. And so the first way we show this, and what our true innovation I think has been in sports, not just women's sports, is that 10% of our sponsorship dollars goes back into the community. And that's been from day one. When we did our first deal with Heineken, followed by DoorDash, we didn't even have a team name, a team color, or even a place to play. And 3 years in, we have put $3.2 million to work in the community, affecting hundreds of thousands of lives, really focusing on youth and young girls, non-binary individuals, focused on equity essentials in education here in LA.
That's amazing. So I was encouraged to toss out something that we're doing also, just to round it out. I can tell you in our business, which is both media advisory, but also a lot of athlete representation, we're really investing in social digital content strategy and execution for our clients as a value add and as a business. Because I think what you've seen, these women all work mostly with a lot of professional athletes, but when you start now with collegiate athletes and even high school athletes with NIL, they're bringing with them their communities, their brand affiliations, and they have huge social followings, and they know how to do content. So one of the things that we're really doing is building out a huge, a sizable team. I've got to think 12 people that all they do is focus on building out social digital content for our athlete clients and then our teams and leagues that we work on to sort of continue to build that social audience. So I'll just throw that out there. Okay, let's jump around a little bit. We won't go in order in fairness. So other than what you've heard your other panelists say, what's an innovation that you've seen another business, team, building utilize that you think is interesting and is something you would consider doing with your business? We'll start with you, Megan.
I think being in Intuit Dome, it's hard not to talk about the technology and facial recognition and everything that goes on here. I think for over at SoFi, the ticket technology side of it is something that's so fascinating to me. Going to digital tickets, 10 years ago or so, that you start to actually know who's in what seat and who's going where, but now you can kind of take that to the next level. So to me, that's incredibly fascinating. You have to have a ticket to know who's there. You have to be able to see every single time it passes hands. You start to really learn who's in your building, what affiliations they have, where, what are they a fan of, how often are they coming, which you know in some sense, but now you can start seeing the exact seat they're in and how often they're coming, what are they buying at the store. And again, you could see that in some ways through, transactions that you do, but it just brings it to a completely different level with the facial recognition part of it. And I think for, to be able to target the right audience and the right fan base and to really provide the type of entertainment that we hope to provide at the stadium, I think that's really the next level and what's so fascinating about it to me of what we can actually bring to our fans with something like that.
How about you, Julie?
I really want my team. We have a small team, although some might say relatively big for women's sports, but we have a fairly small team, so I want them to focus on the fan experience and how do we elevate that game day experience and how do we make sure we're servicing for them. So I like to look at how do you get rid of all the busy work, and the thing that it's most interesting to me that I'm trying to get my team to dig in is how people are using AI to create marketing assets. So when you think about your email for merchandise, your email for tickets, your email for what's coming, which games are coming up, we have a number of people that work on it. We design it, we copyright it, we proof it, we put it out there. We don't A/B test our messages. We don't even segment who they go to, right? Because we're young and we're small. But there are some incredible tools out there where you can effectively say, this is a merch email. Here are all the 10 different shots of merch, and they can create 6 different types of emails given our templates and send them out, and then we can test which one is better. So to me, that's fascinating. That's busy work. Our incredible graphic designers don't want to be doing emails. So I don't feel like it's replacing a job. I actually feel like it's making us smarter and then freeing them up to focus on more game day elements or content for our players. So that's what we're looking at.
That's so interesting. Stacy?
Sure, I'll take a different angle, like a more fan experience, youth fan. I'm sure everyone sitting up here is looking for how to engage youth, how to grow the youth. It's a huge priority and topic for our marketing department all the time. And I have had the benefit of spending a lot of time, as Julie has too, I think, in Europe a lot, seeing other games, seeing what other teams do. Just ran across the last time I was in Switzerland, one of our Swiss friends is doing a youth supporter section. And they have like a syrup club where they actually give out syrup instead of beer shots. They do syrup shots. So since I've come home from this is my new obsession, is we need a youth supporter section so we can grow the young fans from a young, and obviously the youngest age. I mean, they have little kids in here who, again, in Europe, it's a little bit different culture. You can leave your 7, 8-year-old in this section and nobody worries about it. I'm not sure we could do that in Los Angeles, but we can work on the details later. But I thought that was actually a really cool and interesting different way to engage youth fans. My son is 12, would love to go to our supporter section. It would probably not be his best idea on most game days. So I would love to be able to have a place for him to go, and what a great experience and way to grow a fan at that very critical age that we're all trying to tap into in a real life experience instead of social.
Okay, and Lindsay?
My 7-year-old would be so excited about syrup shots.
So in, right?
Yeah, you tell me. I'm gonna have to cut her off though. We need a solid 2-shot minimum for sure, or maximum, I should say.
For sure.
No, a few thoughts. Especially in sports, generally so much of money has been transacted focused on what we call linear broadcast, traditional broadcast, and we're starting to see that increase with digital, with more of the direct-to-consumer and the other streaming offerings. But they haven't really come together in a way that I think fully maximizes the opportunity for advertisers. So we're spending a lot of time thinking about that, since right now they're kind of bucketed in a way that maybe it's digital overlays or other unique opportunities to continue to really drive value. But the innovation that I'm probably most excited about, especially in the media side, that I don't think we fully got is just findability. Like sometimes I'm shocked to realize I missed a game when all the algorithms and all the data out there, should make it pretty clear that I want to watch said game, and I don't think we're there yet. And because, as we've discussed, the content is going so many different places. I mean, just even take LA. We have Dodgers and Lakers on Spectrum. We have Angels, Clippers, and Kings on Bally Sports West and SoCal. And now we have the Ducks on KCOP and Victory Plus. A relatively new entrant in the streaming space. So if you're a fan of Southern California sports, you have to go a lot of places. And that's true as we're seeing for even on the national side. So I think there's going to be a better bundle that really serves fans. And if Rob was here, he'd probably say, yeah, that's called DirecTV. But nonetheless, so it's a little bit of back to the future, but nonetheless, I expect us all to be able to find the games that we care the most about in slightly easier fashion than we can today.
I think that's so right. I think with conference realignment and everything that's happening in the RSN space and new partners for the NBA and the WNBA, that's got to be, that's a challenge that's got to be conquered. I don't know, the people that serve me ads for things to buy from Amazon on my phone should be able to figure that out.
Agreed.
Okay.
Amen to that.
Seriously. Last question, and then we'll open it up for any questions from the audience. You're all running businesses, you're running teams. Internally, what's the process like for how you evaluate something new in your business, some innovation, and if there's been an opportunity for you to invest in something new, really financially or otherwise, where you're making an investment as a first mover? If there's any examples of that, we'll go back down the line with you, Lindsay.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of cliche, but there's no such thing as a bad idea, and some of the best ideas seem to come from everywhere. And I know I always greatly appreciate, especially some of maybe the more junior folks or people whose algorithms and feeds don't look like mine, who are aware of a new company or a new opportunity. And I think that's where we've had sort of the most success of surfacing new ideas, of just making sure that we're casting a really wide net, even across the company. Because oftentimes, as the rooms get smaller and maybe more senior, we have a lot of the same experiences and the same networks. And so I feel like the most interesting new opportunities that we've considered are ones that have come from less traditional sources.
Megan.
I would say, collaboration is huge when looking at, whether it's new spend, new technology, new innovation. I think that's been something that's really, kind of changed over the last couple of years that I've been with the Chargers is, every department was kind of operating in their own world and, kind of coming in and really talking to each other. What are our goals? What do we want to accomplish together? So, I'm not spending this money on this thing over here, but you're not taking advantage of it over here. And I think, COVID really made us kind of sit back and take a look at what we were spending money on and how it was helping. And moving into this new building is how can we create efficiencies that will help all of us be better at our jobs as a whole. And I think that's really, not only made our relationships better internally, but it's made us more efficient with what we're doing. And it's made us be able to really take advantage and, grow together. And, if one department's working on this and be able to capitalize on that internally. And I think, across your connections within sports too, because inevitably, someone's tried it or someone's done it, and it's a really great group of people to kind of ask some questions to. What worked, what didn't work, and share that feedback. But I think collaboration has been probably the biggest change in how we go about innovation, because it's not just one person's responsibility. It's how can we kind of all help each other.
Stacy.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to triple down on that. But to back up what Lindsay said, where we find our best ideas is our young people. Like I just said a minute ago, our biggest target audience is the youth. So to your point, all of us, talking to each other in a room full of people that are, 45 years and up, whose feeds look a lot different than everyone else in the building. We actually created a youth leadership academy, 6 to 8 young staffers that work with my boss, the co-president Larry Friedman, and I. We spend 30 to 45 minutes a month or more with each person, plus in a group setting, we go over board materials, we share the entire thing with them, and we do a different group every year. We have had some of the most amazing ideas come out of that group. They feel empowered, they're more engaged, they understand what our problems are. We're currently dealing with what I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with here in LA, which seems to be getting worse, is the actual attendance. We sell out all of our games, but who actually shows up? And how do we make sure people show up? And if they're not going to show up, can we oversell the building? Can we give some kind of programs? Like, what can we do to get there? And we've had some incredible ideas come out of that group that we're going to start starting this weekend. So that's sort of how we've been tackling some of those problems is, again, just talking to the young people that are not afraid to share the crazy ideas.
Consensus building.
Yeah. Well, I think I take a little bit different of approach. Innovation is really hard, actually, right? Because when you're being innovative, you're breaking a rule, you're creating a new rule, or you're doing something that's never been done. And at the end of the day, the person that says yes is now accountable for those results. And if they go well, you're a hero. And if they go bad, you're going to look for a job, right? So I think it's really difficult to be innovative. To be innovative, I think you have to have strong conviction. I think you have to be willing to take risks. And ideally, you can test along the way, right? Do a small test, and then you can go into the large group. If you try to get decision by committee, you'll never be innovative, which is different from getting ideas by committee, which I 100% agree with. But if you were listening to Gillian early this morning, she gave the example about the concessions and to have a kitchen in, with every place where you could get food, and that's never been done. That's never been done before. It's expensive, right? But because Steve's lens with which to make a decision was, what is the best experience for the fan? It sounded like there was zero hesitation in him saying, let's build a kitchen every place, because that is the right solution. And then by default, it's being innovative. So it's an interesting example where he wasn't trying to be innovative. The result was innovative, but what he was really trying to do was to service the fan base. And so if you look at it from that perspective, I think, at least in our experience, like we've, broken. I love this phrase because it's so true, but then nobody believes it. It's like you can't make an omelet without breaking an egg, right? And so it's kind of the concept of being innovative, right? You're going to have to do something different to try something new and just to keep going. And if it doesn't work, just admit it and shift course. Because the nice thing about sports is we have another game, right? We can recruit differently with a better player. We've got a new fan that's coming up, right? So we need to continue to sort of try new things. And if you remember what your reason is, what your why is, it's called an innovation later, but really it's just about servicing your customers.
Yep. By the way, this is just the sickest room. As the mother of a high school basketball player, he'd lose his mind in here. Matt, do we have time for questions? You tell me, you're the boss. All right. Okay.
He's saying we talk too much. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. Sorry.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.